Hi, welcome to this short webinar on vegan diets, facts and myths. My name is Leila Deh. I'm a qualified doctor. I was trying to become a pediatrician, but I suffered from horrible migraines, which made my personal and professional life very miserable. In the end, I decided to quit medicine. I became a personal trainer because I'm a martial artist and it made sense to get into the fitness industry. And about the same time, I went vegan for animal rights. And as you can imagine, everybody was asking the vegan personal trainer about protein. And that's how I started to learn more about nutrition because as doctors, we don't really get any training in nutrition. And by then, I had chronic migraines, meaning that I had headaches on almost 20 days per month, and 10 to 12 of them were severe migraines. So I was spending 10 to 12 days of months, in bed. So I didn't really have a life. And that's why I'm actually looking back really grateful to those people who asked me about protein because those questions eventually led me to learn about a whole food plant-based diet. I learned that, a lot of people had reversed their heart disease, diabetes, even cancers on a whole food plant-based diet. So I thought I'd give it a go. And I changed from a junk food vegan to eating a whole food plant-based diet. And within 5 days, my migraines and headaches just disappeared. Something that had cost me my medical career, something that had made my life miserable for decades, it was gone within days with just eating food. So that was really mind blowing. And that's why I got a master's degree in nutrition at UCL. And since then, I have been talking and writing a lot about my own healing journey. I wrote a chapter in a book called Disease Reversal Hope. And my main focus as a martial artist is plant-based sports nutrition. That's my passion. And I have contributed a chapter to a clinical book about plant-based nutrition for athletes. And last year, I gave a lecture on vegan diets for athletes to master's students at St. Mary's. So hopefully I can do that more often. 10 years ago, when I went vegan, being vegan was still something new. People expected vegans to look pale, sickly. I mean, don't get me wrong, some still believe that. But now the majority have actually watched the Game Changers. And most people come to me asking, tell me what I need to eat to look like one of these guys. So today, in this webinar, I will focus on the most common nutritional myths about vegan diets. And in the end, at the end of the webinar, I'm going to share with you some practical tips on how you can adopt a healthy vegan diet. So let's start with whether vegan diets are actually healthy. Every year in January, the US News Report brings out a list of the best diets. And the Mediterranean diet has been on top of that list for 6 years. And interestingly, the top 11 diets are actually extremely plant heavy. In fact, if you speak to, dietitians and nutritionists, almost all of us agree that a healthy diet should be predominantly plant-based. I always like to use the NHS Eat Well Guide, which was published by the Public Health England and which is what we are using here in the UK. And again, if you look at it, you see that over a third of our diet should be fruits and vegetables. Over a third should be starchy carbs. So that's almost 70% of our diet, which is plant-based. And if we add to it the legumes and plant, milks and cheeses, that percentage goes up to 80-85%. So even the Eat Well Guide actually says that, our diet should be 80-85% plant-based. And the science backs this up. The more plant-based you eat, the better it is for your health. And when we look at the blue zones populations, these are 5 regions in the world where people have a low risk for a variety of diseases, and they live the longest. And their diet is 90 to 100% plant-based. So yes, a vegan diet can be healthy. However, like any other diet, it also depends on what you eat. As I mentioned earlier, I used to be a junk food vegan, and it is really easy to eat, just only vegan junk food. And nowadays there are so many highly processed vegan foods out there. Whenever you go shopping, you find many options. I'm not saying that you cannot have them, but you should really enjoy them on occasions. If you remember the Eat Well Guide, processed foods were actually not on the plate, they were outside of the plate. So you really need to, enjoy those processed foods maybe a couple of times a week, not more than that, not every day. So your diet should be mainly whole plant foods. A healthy vegan diet emphasizes eating plant foods such as fruits, vegetables, whole grains, legumes, beans, nuts, and seeds, and discourages eating refined carbs and other processed foods. Is a vegan diet unnatural because vegans need supplements? Can vegans actually survive without supplements? No, vegans do need supplements, but so does the rest of population. Many of us wouldn't reach our recommended macronutrient intakes without fortified foods. Fortification of commonly consumed foods with certain macronutrients is an easy and cost-effective public health strategy, and it prevents nutrient deficiency. So vitamin A, folic acid, iodine, vitamin D, calcium, these are just some of the macronutrients that have been added to foods. But let's talk about vegan diets. Which supplements do vegans need? Well, the only supplement that vegans need to take, which is really non-negotiable, is vitamin B12. B12 is made by the bacteria in the soil. Animals don't produce it. They get it actually from the dirt around the grass when they are eating grass. And factory farmed animals who are confined and who don't have access to grass, they actually have B12 supplements added to their feeds. Dairy products are fortified with B12. So people who don't consume animal products, yes, they are at risk of B12 deficiency and they need to supplement. But also elderly people, they are at risk and they need to supplement with B12, or they should consider it at least. And all you need is to either take a daily B12 supplement, 50 microgram or 2000 microgram once a week. Some vegans, including myself, try to get their B12 from fortified foods, nutritional yeast or fortified plant milks. And it is possible, but it does require some careful planning. And I usually recommend people to top up with a supplement from time to time, just to make sure that they are getting enough B12. Then there is vitamin D. Vitamin D is not really a vegan issue. Vitamin D is made in our skins after sun exposure. And whenever there isn't any sun, we all need to take a supplement. So the NHS recommends that everybody in the UK takes a supplement from October to March, April. And if you're eating a healthy vegan diet with a variety of foods, then you can actually get all the other nutrients from foods. However, you might want to consider, taking an iodine supplement or even, an omega-3 supplement, and I'll talk about the omega-3 supplement later. Iodine deficiency is still a problem, even here in the UK. Iodine is an essential mineral. It is important for the production of thyroid hormones, and it is important for protein synthesis and brain development. In the UK, the main source of iodine is actually dairy milk and other dairy products. But dairy products don't really naturally contain iodine. Iodine is actually added to the feed of dairy cows. And also farmers use iodine-based solutions to clean the teats and udders of dairy cows and disinfect the milking equipment. So that is how iodine actually gets into dairy milk. There are plant sources of iodine like beans, vegetables, but the iodine content depends on the iodine level in the soil. So it's not really reliable. Seaweed contains iodine, but some types of seaweed are actually very high in iodine and they should be avoided, like kelp. If you eat kelp regularly, you could actually reach toxic levels of iodine, which you want to prevent, obviously. You have the option of having small amounts of powdered nori or wakame added to your soups, stews, salads, or pasta a few times a week. Or you can take a non-seaweed supplement. There are a lot of plant milks which are fortified with iodine, so that could be another choice, another option of getting your daily iodine. Now, I like to add that many countries have iodized salt. They have done that as a public health strategy to prevent iodine deficiency, and that is also an option. I know we talk about reducing your salt intake, but half a teaspoon of iodized salt actually is enough for your daily iodine intake. So that is something to consider. Where do vegans get their protein from? I'm sure all the vegans have heard this question many times. When I speak about sports nutrition, I try not to start with protein. Because to be honest, our society is obsessed with protein. The food industry has turned protein into the single most important nutrient. And we have led to believe that protein from animals is better. So, of course, when you go vegan and remove animal products from your diet, your first worry is protein. But the truth is that all foods have protein. People are often surprised to hear that green vegetables have protein. Even fruits contain some protein. In fact, all proteins are made from plants. That is how animals and humans get their protein from. Proteins are made up of smaller units called amino acids, and there are 20 that play a role in the human body. 9 of them are essential, meaning that you need to obtain them from your diet. So most of the time when people ask about protein, they are asking about the 9 essential amino acids, and they are usually referring to the fact that animal protein is considered complete, whereas plant proteins are not. This is a myth. All plant proteins contain all the 9 essential amino acids. However, different foods have different amounts of the essential amino acids. It's like vitamins and minerals. You get varying amounts of vitamins and minerals in different foods. So, plant proteins are not lacking any amino acids, but 1 or 2 amino acids may be low, and they are called the limiting amino acids. Let me give you an example. For example, rice is limited in lysine but high in methionine. But beans are limited in methionine and high in lysine. This has of course given rise to another myth, the protein combining or protein complementing myth, which refers to the idea that you should eat rice with beans in the same meal to make sure to get enough of the limiting amino acids. But as I said, this is a myth. Your body accumulates different amino acids and stores them. And whenever necessary, the body recycles and reuses them. That's why it is important to eat a variety of plant protein sources over the day, but not in the same meal. So just make sure to eat enough calories and eat in different plant proteins. Good sources are legumes, lentils, chickpeas, black beans, starchy vegetables, leafy green vegetables, whole grain products, nuts and seeds, and of course, soy products. So I spoke about the quality of protein. What about the quantity? The average person needs 0.75 gram per kg body weight per day. That's about 12 to 15% of your total calories. So, an average adult weighing 60 kg needs about 45 gram of protein per day. That's not a lot, and you can easily get that, in your diet. And we have enough data from the EPIC Oxford and the Adventist Health Study showing us that every dietary group, including the vegan group, is actually consuming more than the recommended daily intake. But you need to make sure that you consume enough calories. Plant foods are low in calorie density. So when people go vegan, they end up actually eating less calories per meal, even if they are eating the same amount of food, even if you have the same amount of food on your plate, which is what we humans actually like. We like to eat the same kind of amount, the same volume all the time. So that's why when people go vegan first, they complain of being hungry all the time and feeling weak and tired. But you need to imagine when you're eating less calories, less food, it means you're also getting less of all the nutrients, and that includes obviously protein. So make sure that you are eating enough calories for your lifestyle. So how can vegans get their omega-3 fatty acids if they don't consume fish? Omega-3 fatty acids are very important for cell membranes, for your heart, your lungs, your immune system, endocrine function, vision, for your overall health. But fish don't make omega-3. They get it actually from algae. There are 3 important omega-3 fatty acids, alpha-linolenic acid, ALA, and we can get ALA, from our diet. There are a lot of options like hemp seeds, flax seeds, chia seeds, walnuts. And then ALA is converted to EPA and DHA in our body. Now, there are some people who are not good at converting ALA into, EPA and DHA. And there have been studies showing that vegans have lower blood levels of, DHA and EPA compared to omnivores. However, another review in 2016 actually showed that the low levels of EPA and DHA don't have any adverse health effects. So for now, the research is inconclusive, and it is really up to each individual if they want to supplement with omega-3 or not. I personally have a supplement at home, and on those days, when for whatever reason I'm not having flaxseed or walnuts, because that is what I usually like to take, I take a supplement. So that is an option. Dairy is considered one of the best sources of calcium and as such important for strong bones. So a commonly asked question is, where do vegans get their calcium if they don't drink dairy milk? Calcium is an important mineral. It plays a role in muscle and nerve function, blood clotting, and bone formation. In fact, 99% of the total calcium in our body can be found in the bones. So yes, it is needed for strong bones, but we also need other nutrients, and I'll talk about that in a bit. So as I mentioned, calcium is a mineral. It is found in the soil, and then it is absorbed into the roots of plants. Animals get their calcium from plants, from the grass they eat. And it's actually easier to absorb calcium from plant sources than from dairy products. We absorb about 32 to 34% of calcium in dairy products, whereas we absorb about 30% from tofu, 20 to 28% from legumes, and 40 to 70% from dark green leafy vegetables. So dark green leafy vegetables are a very good source of calcium. And when it comes to bone health, a study in 2014 looked at 96,000 individuals and concluded that the more dairy milk the teenage boys consume, the more bone fractures they actually experienced as adults. And the latest review we have was published in 2020, which showed no evidence that high dairy consumption reduces the risk for bone fractures. Good calcium sources are beans, kale, broccoli, collard greens, nuts, and seeds. And a lot of plant milks are actually fortified with calcium, and they offer the same amount of calcium as you would get in dairy milks. When it comes to bone health, there are also other nutrients that are important for strong bones, like vitamin D, magnesium, vitamin K, and protein. And remember, we get vitamin D, from sun exposure. So a lot of people end up having low vitamin D levels, even if they are not deficient. They may have low vitamin D levels during the winter months. So, and that reduces the calcium absorption. So we shouldn't really forget about the other nutrients which are important for strong bones. Also, bones are strengthened by weight-bearing exercises and maintaining a healthy body weight. So don't forget the importance of exercising, resistance training. Can vegans get enough iron when they don't eat red meat? Iron deficiency is one of the most common nutritional deficiencies worldwide, and low iron levels are very common, especially among girls and women. We distinguish between heme iron and non-heme iron. Plants have only non-heme, while animal products have 40% heme iron, and then the rest is non-heme. Heme iron is more bioavailable, but that's not necessarily a good thing. Excess iron in our body is actually oxidized, and that can cause damage by creating free radicals. Excess iron can cause damage to our organs like, to liver and brain. It increases the risk for colon cancer, for heart disease, stroke. Non-heme iron, which you find in plant foods, on the other hand, is absorbed actually slowly. So if your ferritin levels, that is how iron is stored in your body, if the ferritin levels are low, the absorption of non-heme iron is increased. So this is actually a self-regulating process which prevents iron toxicity. And an interesting fact that many people are not aware is that in the UK, the main source of iron is actually not red meat. It is fortified cereal foods. And this is really because white flour needs actually to be fortified with iron and calcium. So it is the law. So red meat only provides 15 to 20% of iron intake in the UK. There are ways you can actually increase the iron absorption in your body, for example, by adding vitamin C. And luckily, a lot of plant foods are naturally high in vitamin C. Then ginger, garlic, and onion, they can also increase the iron absorption, sometimes up to 50%. And another thing is that you need to avoid having tea and coffee with your meals, because coffee and tea, they have a substance called tannin, and tannins actually inhibit iron absorption. So ideally, you shouldn't have tea and coffee 1 to 2 hours before and after your meals. Good iron sources on a vegan diet are legumes. Again, legumes are actually really, nutritional super foods. I don't like to call anything superfood, but legumes are really nutritious. For example, a cup of cooked lentils has 6.6 milligram of iron. Other good iron sources are nuts and seeds, green vegetables, molasses, if you like it. 2 tablespoons of molasses provides 3.8 milligram of iron. And of course, soybeans. And that brings me to another myth. Soy increases the risk for breast cancer. Soy gives men man boobs. The main controversy around soy comes from the fact that soy contains phytoestrogen, which is really plant-based estrogen. And people are concerned because too much estrogen actually causes breast cancer, prostate cancer, heart issues, and other health problems. And in the past, there were a couple of case studies, meaning a study involving only one individual, and they were eating a lot of tofu, like, I'm talking about more than 20 servings per day, and they had serious health problems. So that is where the myth about soy comes from, that, if you eat a lot of soy with estrogen, you can have health problems. But as I mentioned, phytoestrogen is a plant-based estrogen, and although it is similar to human estrogen, it works differently. Firstly, it has no effect on testosterone, so it has no feminizing effect. Phytoestrogen acts actually on different receptors in the breast tissue, so it reduces the risk for breast cancer. In men, it reduces the risk for prostate cancer, and it prevents osteoporosis. It can also reduce menopausal symptoms, and in older people, it actually improves blood flow in brain, and that is obviously important for memory function, and it boosts cognition. So phytoestrogen, actually offers the benefits of human estrogen without the harms. And you can enjoy tofu, tempeh, edamame a few times a week. Soy milk is actually my plant milk of choice, and it's a very good source of protein, especially for athletes. So that's the one I usually recommend to people. And both the British Dietetic Association and the American Dietetic Association agree that a well-balanced vegan diet is appropriate for all people during all stages of life. So how can you make sure that you are eating a healthy vegan diet? I like actually to keep nutrition as simple and as easy as possible, because you want to enjoy your food, and food is more than the nutrients we find in them. So when it comes to eating a vegan diet, the first point is to make sure to eat enough calories. As I mentioned earlier, many people make this mistake when they go first vegan, and they are not eating enough food, they are not getting enough calories and enough energy. Then, of course, they are going to feel weak, tired. They may even start losing hair. Their athletic performance is going to suffer. So the first point is that you need to make sure that you are eating enough energy to match your lifestyle. Then have a good source of plant protein in each meal. And you can easily do that. For example, if you're having breakfast, have soy milk with your porridge, or nut butter on your bread. Or if you prefer a smoothie in the morning, you can add flax seeds, chia seeds, hemp seeds, or again, nut butter to your smoothie. For lunch and dinner, adding legumes is always a good way of making sure that you are eating some protein. Roasted chickpeas actually are really delicious. You can add them to your salads. You can have them as a snack. So very easily, made, and it's really yummy. Eat the rainbow. And I'm not just talking about the different colored vegetables, but also, when it comes to grains and legumes, there are so many different types. So make sure that you are not eating the same all the time. Choose from different legumes, so many different lentils, red lentils, green lentils. So have something different each time. Your gut microbiome actually loves variety. Then, of course, B12 is a must. So you really need to make sure that you take a B12 supplement. Whether you want to take iodine or omega-3 is optional, and it depends on your diet. Lastly, have vegan processed foods, but the vegan donuts, vegan burgers, ice creams, have them, but only on occasions. You don't want to have them every day. And ideally, you should have a blood test every year to check on your levels and make sure that you are getting enough nutrients and everything is okay. If you have any questions, feel free to email me or just comment below on the video, and I will get back to you. Thank you.